Frequency fam, so we are going live again tonight, and boy do we have some interesting conversation ahead. So let's let everybody get on and then we'll begin. So today's topic is going to be about emotional resiliency. We're going to talk about emotional resiliency, especially for those of you in the health and wellness industry. We tend to do a lot of other work, right? But doing the work for ourselves sometimes becomes a second priority. So we're going to talk about how we can go about improving both our own personal and also professional results and lifestyle balance as a result of that. Hi, everyone. Thanks, Victoria. I'm definitely an earring girl through and through. I love my earrings. Don't wear much for necklaces, only because at the end of the night, the skincare regimen, necklaces are always cumbersome. They'll get all the oils and things that you have, and then also too, they can lend towards some wrinkles as well. So I'm a little cautious with them, but love my earrings for sure. And because I am part water element, which we're going to talk about the elements today, everybody, but because I am equally water element and metal element, the kidneys open to the ears, and so I have some extra synergy there with being able to wear my jewelry or my stones on my ears. I love it. Okay, well, let's go ahead and get going here. Let's see, I don't think I've missed anything. Hello, everybody. Yes. Okay, so today's topic again, for those of you, let's put this banner up. Okay, perfect. I actually have some stuff to share. Kara, you have metal. Yes, you do. Kara and I love organized closets. We have sent pictures back and forth about how we have the closets organized from sleeveless to and actually when metal sometimes has some congested energy that it needs to burn through, OCD or that type of organization overload can be a result. As you can see, understanding these rhythms about ourselves becomes very important to help us achieve balance and know whenever that we've kind of tread a little bit over, and also whenever perhaps that we need a little bit extra generation of our own natural rhythm and element when we're coming short. So let's go ahead and talk about all of this. So emotional resiliency begins with understanding your rhythm. You have to understand that each of us has our own natural cycles of ebb and flow. This doesn't mean that we're only going to stay in that lane and only do things that we 100% feel comfortable with, right? Because life is about pushing the envelope, and we will be pushed regardless of whether we want to push it or not. But understanding our natural ebb and flow and our natural rhythm will allow us to understand how we can still tackle and target a lot of these ambitious type of things that we still want to do, but do it in a way that doesn't compromise taking us out of this groove for too long, right? So let's go ahead and look at the Chinese elements. I'm going to share a picture here so that we will have some visuals to everything that I'm about to say. First, here are the Chinese elements. The circular arrows that you see are going to be considered a generating relationship, right? So wood will create fire, right? Fire is going to create earth. You've ever seen how that we will burn the land? A quarter of the farming land used to be burnt so that we would rest that and allow that to regenerate back in the day. They don't do that really much anymore. Out of earth, we get metal, right? Because that's where we get the constitution of the element and that which actually creates metal. Metal also creates or allows for water, right? With that constitution. Now look, there's also a control mechanism within nature. She has ways to make sure that none of this actually gets too uncontained. So the arrows in the middle are going to represent what is called an overcoming relationship. That would be where we see something like water, right? Which puts out fire. And fire, which can actually melt metal. And metal, which can chop wood, as you see, right? And so on and so on and so on. And so we have this ebb and flow of the fabrics of creation, which allow for this natural relationship of rhythm as it is distributed throughout all of us, throughout all things, to ebb and flow. We all have natural different rhythms because of our natural different constitutions of these elements. Each of us, even though we talk about dominant elements, and I have mentioned how mine is metal and water, we have all of the fabric of all of these elements within us. It's just some of us have a little bit different percentage, if you will, if you want to look at it that way, of your lead rhythm, or where you tend to kind of come into your sweet spot or your fundamental frequency, if you will. It's important to understand that because that's also going to define the areas that you'll tend to build up or congest your energy in. And that could look like emotional and or feelings. That could look like the physiology that grows out of that and the disturbances we'll see within our health. But whether it's the tension that we're holding in our feelings and our emotions or in the flesh, understanding our rhythms is going to allow us to understand not only how that we can optimize our own life, right? But how we're going to be able to optimize that of others. So if we're working in the field with health and wellness and we have clients that are different from us, well, how could we identify those differences if we're not able to understand our own rhythm? We cannot understand how to help another individual if we don't understand how they may differ. What may be something that we're trying to accomplish, trying to force that over another mold for somebody else in a different rhythm sequence could be contradictory, right? It could literally have this overcoming effect, as I've talked about. And so it's imperative to be able to understand our rhythm so that we can understand how to help others, right? And anticipate where that there might be some issues in the way that they coalesce together. In anticipating this, we're better able to prepare ourselves so that we can consolidate our efforts, right? It is kind of said, and there's a lot more to this, but in kind of a general level, that energy, matter really is condensed energy. So consolidate and conserve your energy, because if matter is condensed energy, you want to make it matter, right? Pun intended. So understanding your clients or your patient's rhythm and understanding that that rhythm for them is not your rhythm is really the most valuable takeaway that you're going to get out of today's lecture and that, well, lecture IG Live. And that is because you may think something is doing great for you, but that may not be the natural rhythm for others. It doesn't mean they can't still try to attain what it is that you are chasing or the goal that you have achieved. They just have a different way to surf their way through that interference to get there, okay? So that is the Chinese elements. Let's go into a second actual look at that and see what that looks like if we take it out of nature and look and see what that looks like when we apply human experience. As an agriculture scientist, I am convinced that we're not apart from this equation. We are a part of the equation, okay? So again, this fabric that creates everything that we see, right, in our world is also within us. So if we take this down and we look at it the way that Chinese medicine would, you would see that there are the 5 elements associated with certain types of phenotypical stagnation and or congestion points. Let's look at them. First, let's see if I've actually missed any comments here. I'll try and do a little bit better job in staying up on them because once I get to talking, sometimes I don't look at these for a minute. And then there's too many to scroll back up to. Oh no, I think I'm still doing well. Okay, perfect. Great to see you all too. Okay, so in looking at this diagram, now we're going to look at everything from the same lens that we just did in nature and apply this again to ourselves, right? So we see that the wood element, if you will, is associated with the liver and the gallbladder. So if we have a predominant rhythm that leans a little bit more toward wood, let's say at the expense of some of these others, it doesn't mean again that there is not the other elements within us. There can definitely be some that we have more constitution in than others. But as a whole, let's say that we have an individual who is more wood in their type of rhythm, right? The liver and the gallbladder are going to be these areas which tend to kind of trap and congest this tension. So they will be more prone to having some of the liver gallbladder type of disturbances. And we can look at this from the physiological outlets that could happen in the flesh, right? Or we could look at it from the emotional constitution as well and the type of personality predispositions we may even see. We have some different types of literatures we're going to share that get into specifically how we can take this into the workplace and the traits and characteristics of each element and how that we can put certain individuals in certain positions and have certain teams constructed, you know, with certain individuals and really delegate in a way that sets everybody up to contribute in their optimum type of rhythm. And this is how we get teams together to be able to do things a lot more, you know, not necessarily effortlessly because everything requires effort and energy, but to do so with a lot less kind of reverberation or sabotage, right? We can make things easier on ourselves by understanding our rhythm and how that rhythm interacts with others. And fire is going to hold its natural rhythm or constitution or congestion more so within the heart and the small intestine. You'll see a lot of issues with the sympathetic to parasympathetic nervous system balance whenever we have a fire forward type of person or fire forward element. Let's look at earth, where we have the stomach and the spleen. this element is going to be prone to a lot of the digestive issues, right? And these are individuals who might have a lot of worry associated with them from the emotional standpoint. Wood, as you may be familiar with, liver and gallbladder might be prone to the frustration or the anger, the easy to become impatient. Fire, which I forgot to mention there, is very much a lover of the new and the exciting. And so they could be characterized by, joy, but joy to the point that it is overstimulation, right? That also isn't something that is good for us either. We may abandon things too quickly because we're looking for the next nice shiny ball. Moving from earth into metal, we see, and again, I am a metal water element, so these next two really apply to me. We see that this correlates to the lungs and the long intestine, the colon being in the long intestine. The skin is also considered kind of the third lung in Chinese medicine. And so if you have a lot of skin issues, if you have the lung marker coming up on your scans, that is literally from a subtle energy perspective why we may have some problems with skin issues. The distribution of fluids that are coming to the skin is in a subtle energy plane directed by this lung-large intestine relationship. So if you see the lung-large intestine relationship come up on your scan, it may not be because the gut is producing, acne or psoriasis in the way that we kind of think from a functional medicine standpoint, but it could be from a subtle energy standpoint that we literally are not vaporizing these liquids to go into the tissues. You get dry tissues, and dryness is more irritating, right? We are more affected by our environment. And so that might be the natural constitution where that we may see some of those, stress and strife or tension moments pop up in somebody who has a metal element. Non-coincidentally, I had a lot of skin issues when I was younger. And so the metal elements are oftentimes characterized by their love of organization, their love of analysis and structure and meaning and understanding. Now, water also is an element that has a lot to do with meaning and purpose, but more from this philosophical type of standpoint or artistic or creative standpoint. This is characterized by kidney and bladder, and also because in Chinese medicine that the kidney is where that the endocrine system or reproductive system and the bones, or what's called the marrow, and not just bone marrow, but marrow extending into things like cerebral spinal fluid and the like in Chinese medicine. There's an outgrowth from this particular element. So you can see a lot of issues within those particular tend to kind of be more, fear or stress oriented in the way that they'll come to getting a project done. And so you can see that we have, again, all of these elements within us, right? And it just depends on where we kind of have our highest points of contention or concentration that will condense our energy. And that is where that we'll kind of see that pressure from the pressure cooker, that little steam portion where that you click the button, it all kind of comes out from. There's just certain areas for us, depending on this distribution, where we're going to find that happening for us more than others. It doesn't mean that the other elements where we don't really see so much aren't going to be getting a get out of jail free card. They still can experience issues as a result, of course. And even then, let's look at this, right? Perhaps we have one element that generates another. Well, if that element that we have, which is a dominant element, because we spend so much time in this natural rhythm, requires so much more to feed into it, you can see how that we can actually deplete elements that are not related, right, to where things might be happening, but because they have to keep generating or feeding into that. Likewise, elements might come up because that this could be something that's trying to control or contain something. Perhaps that we have a lot of bloating, and I talked about this in, I think, a couple IG Lives ago, in the gut, right? Or we might have a lot of fluid issues or edema, and we're wondering why we have a lot of this kind of seemingly stagnation with the fluids in our body. That could be a water element that is being recruited to try to put out inflammation or fire, right? So this all has this web that comes together to create not only the distribution of balance that we see in Mother Nature, but also in ourselves, because we are a representation of that. We're not apart from it, but we're a part of it. So that is the kind of brief introduction into the Chinese element system. Let's actually look a little bit more deeply into breaking this down. So let me share some more insights here with this chart. So hopefully we can see most of it. I know some of it kind of fades out where we have the comments, but if we look, you can see that we have fire, earth, metal, water. And then I think it actually doesn't allow, let me see, no, it doesn't let me, but it won't let me do that. So we will go with just a little bit of kind of the idea of what this is trying to pass as a message as far as looking at our elements, looking at where we kind of see these points of congestion or condensation come up in the body, the associated type of emotional patterns, but also we can break it down into specific tissues, such as with fire. These tend to be your individuals that will have the arterial stress, right? Blood pressure goes up. The earth elements, if we have an earth dominant rhythm, a lot of times these individuals will have a predisposition for the muscles to kind of be where we have the tension. And the metal element, the skin, especially that epidermis that I talked about, right? My back history is that I suffered with really bad cystic acne back in my late teens and early 20s. And then from kidneys, my face is blocking all of that out. But if we were to look there, it would talk about the urogenital system, or, looking at also the marrow that comes out of that. Again, really in Chinese medicine, the marrow is not just the bone marrow, but the marrow is the constitution that provides the fabric of even the nervous system. And so we'll see that there are specific tissues even that are associated with these elements. Now we can look at different types of flavors. So if you've ever wondered why you like certain flavors and not others, well, guess what? That is a rhythm that is attractive to you because you have a natural rhythm. So it's kind of like a like attracting like there. I absolutely love strong food. I like food that is pungent and robust. So I love Middle Eastern food. I love African food. And so that is my metal element there. At the same time, I like, sour foods. And so that would be something that, we see with the water element. Perhaps you're a person that likes, salt. Perhaps you're a person that loves the sweets. Earths, you're the sweet lovers. That can be chalked up to understanding our natural rhythm. And so when we start seeing ourselves craving a lot of these foods, we might identify that for our natural rhythm that we're being a little bit depleted there and recognize that as kind of a sign. And also the way that we choose to eat. Eating in season is said to be the thing to do because it gives you the correct information from the environment. We're getting our updates, right? Kind of like your environment. Well, how are you getting that? You're getting it from the sunlight. You're getting it from the types of wavelengths that that's giving you, the biorhythms that are adjusted via the food that we're eating because that food was grown with that type of information. And so certain types of, let's say, even root veggies, right? Depending what season that they're growing in, you may see that some root veggies may actually jive with you and others won't. And you're kind of trying to find a rhyme or reason, wondering, well, how come I can tolerate some of them and some of them I can't? What season are these grown in? Are they a season that is your natural rhythm? Your body may more readily adjust to that or like that or prefer that as a result of it. Perhaps we see certain types of foods that give us reactions instead of just looking at it from this IgG standpoint. What is your natural rhythm? Because look at those seasons in which those foods are grown and see if that has any type of a balancing effect for you, because that might be why you like them. Also, certain colors are associated, and so we may be drawn to certain colors. We may find we don't like certain colors, and it can be something as simple as what you put in your environment. A person who, and I love, white in my surroundings. I don't get to decorate the house exactly how I like because I shared this house with a husband. So it's a little bit of his earth and wood element that come into that against my metal and my water, because if you were to look at the furniture I had before, it is totally the old Hollywood glam metal mirrored furniture, and metal representing the metal element and mirror representing the quality that a lot of water elements will prefer, which is kind of this, water kind of replicating quality. There's also certain predispositions that we have. So as far as how we let or how sound escapes us with the release, think of it again as that pressure cooker where that we have this escape of this tension, right? And with the fire, this usually comes out as laughing. And this can be a person that even in their nervousness, right, may laugh. And other rhythms might find that offensive because they think, are you kidding me? If you're a metal element and you're very serious, you may think that is absolutely inappropriate for somebody to laugh at a certain occasion. But that is their natural rhythm. That is the way that they will allow that tension to escape. So can you see how, and it doesn't mean that we excuse behavior that would be inappropriate or abusive to anybody. By understanding, the why behind certain types of actions, we might be able to be a little bit, less judgmental and set ourselves up for understanding, things that won't have to end up in this big type of, maelstrom of issues that later on, interrupt our lives, right? Also looking at earths who love to sing, the metal element crying. And then we also see that there are a lot of other things that we could kind of chalk up to the elements, and from the way that we physically kind of have our structures to the way that our emotional or personality templates are. And you may have, the elemental distribution, the phenotype in one element. And it might be, let's say, your secondary element that you take on more of the personality from. It's not like that if you have a dominant element, you expect that the physical, the emotional, and every single thing there is going to line up. There's definitely going to be some strong aspects within that dominate, but they're not going to represent everything. Many of you will have coexisting duality within your element distribution. I am, like I said, dead even Steven, a water and a metal element. And after that, I kind of drop off, but I still have earth, I still have fire, and I still have wood. Wood is my least dominating element. And that is why, for example, even though I have little bit of my condensation or congestion that will build up there naturally based on my rhythm, it is the first, because I'm already working with a kind of slightly lower gas tank, the first to deplete itself. So who benefits from all the type of liver gallbladder support? Who benefits from help with their biliary tract? Who benefits from helping with digestion of fats? Me, right? Even though that I'm a water and a metal element. So can you see that by understanding the true relationship between all these elements, you don't just look at markers in any type of a scan and say, oh, lung and large intestine meridian, this is an area that has the problem. Well, it could be, but there's all these other relationships we can take into consideration as well, right? So again, that's just kind of an introduction there. And then let's actually look at some of the ways that this intersects into the workplace. So let me change this. Okay, so let's start first with our earth elements. And typically there is an order that these begin with, starting with water, but because these screenshots don't have a rhyme and reason, we're just going to elements. We see that earths are the grand nurturers, right? I mean, think about earth itself. It's literally the canvas for everything else to plot itself on. And so earths are there. They're the one that they don't care about being in the limelight. They want to go and genuinely be the spectator to support their friend. They're the self-sacrificing. It doesn't mean that other elements don't self-sacrifice, but they may self-sacrifice differently, okay? So an earth, however, is generally going to be the first to really allow themselves to worry about others to the extent that they kind of neglect to worry about themselves. And earths will have a natural predisposition for the home life, for the children. And this doesn't mean that every single person that has a strong or leading earth element is going to exactly check all those boxes, but maybe it might come out as somebody who's excelling in construction. Because again, there is a yin and yang component within these elements, right? And the way that that comes out can also change or evolve the way that that looks. Maybe it's somebody who loves to cook. I am not a super earth strong oriented element, but the way my earth comes out is that I love to cook. I can be in the kitchen all day. Food is my love language. It's not work for me, right? That's how my earth comes out. So let's say that I have somebody who is an earth element. Maybe they're working for me. How can we connect? How can we coalesce? I do it in the way that I love to cook, right? Or I love to entertain. And this person may be somebody that is really nifty or great at doing things within the house. They're a do-it-yourselfer. They don't have to hire a helping hand. They can put up this, rack of bookshelves for you. They can help you take down some drywall. They can do all these things. These are talking points or conversations or working relationships that we can foster together to be more productive, right? And maybe that person with that earth element doesn't necessarily share some of the super detailed organization things that I love to do. And I may understand that about them when I'm working with them, but then I may realize that the way that they're going to work doesn't necessarily have to not deliver on the dotted line. It's just going to deliver or sign a little bit differently if we're cognizant to all this. So with earths, we'll see again that these are very dependable, nurturing, reliable, steadfast types. And these are very, short with this. But the way that an earth, for example, might like their office organized, earths are prone to clutter. They love all the little knickknacks because they're so sentimental. I can't throw away this little note that my child wrote me, even though I have 3,000 of them from 1982. I can't throw this away, right? They can't bring themselves to do that. So there might be clutter. A metal element might come in and go, oh my gosh, this is driving me crazy. And you just want to move it all away, right? I have no problem giving things to Goodwill. I have no problem. This, it can all go, right? I like stream clean lines. So that's how somebody can understand working in maybe, let's say, a shared office or, a work style where we can kind of meet in the middle or understanding, what is that bone to pick with people. And if really we need to pick it at all when we really understand why that it is the way that it is. So let's move on from earths and let's look at at, this one's a little harder because it is not scaled properly. I tried to cut out the excess stuff, but it looks like it worked against me. So I cannot even see which element this is, to be honest. This is fire. Okay, so with fire, as you can see here, some of the things that have come up on the screen. Fire, loves to be the life of the party, right? They can be the public speakers. They can captivate the attention. They are great in the spotlight. And so if you have somebody with a strong fire element and that's kind of their natural rhythm, that's the individual you want to go sell that elevator pitch, right? Somebody else may organize the financials behind it or organize the strategy. Then you may have yet another portion of that team to be able to kind of have the tenacity to follow up and have gotten that appointment arranged in the first place with that wood quality, right? Who won't take no for an answer. So there's all dynamics and ways that we can fit in to achieve a joint goal. With fires, however, they can tend to, like I said, have that shiny ball syndrome. So sometimes this can cause some struggles because maintaining jobs, not because they're not capable, but they may just move on to the next, right? So if you have somebody who is a very strong fire element, there may be things that we need to do to keep that employee or that person engaged to be able to make sure that their needs for all of that, right? That plasma that is fire that everybody wants, that are oftentimes going to be siphoned from. So other elements, everybody loves that fire, right? They can tend to drain the fire. So maybe you have somebody who's a fire in the team and you need to set up a dynamic so that they're not going to be the first one to kind of get siphoned, because then you may find that role becomes something that creates a high turnover. They're also very incensed by justice, and woods are actually a lot like that as well. But you'll see that this can cause some problems because we may see somebody, like an earth, who could have a friend who's a fire and they're totally fine, again, in that secondary kind of role. They want to stand back and support. But that fire may go on and find yet another cool, shiny ball, and that could be a new friend, a new job, etc., and leave the others behind. It can be very hurtful for someone like an earth, right? But by understanding that, we can help to make sure that there is this balance, right? Let's see what some of these questions are saying, if there are any questions. Let's see some of your feedback. That's why I can never give stuff away. Victoria, you're an earth, huh? Oh, Deanna definitely has some earth. She has earth in relation to the babies. She's got 5 of them, and she wants more. And she can definitely build you anything. She can build you a whole entire house. Someone has said, I was literally wondering why I sing nonstop and have to tell myself to stop because I feel wiped out after so long. That's literally just you pushing the pressure release button on your pressure cooker to allow that tension that builds up, where you tend to gravitate that tension because of your natural predisposition to be more in that particular rhythm, which is associated with those areas. That is kind of almost like a tuning fork, if you will. So certain organ systems are going to be calibrated and they'll have this kind of singing effect, right? Or ringing effect in resonance with certain types of emotions or certain types of energies. So you can think of it that way. And that pressure cooker that comes to the surface is when that kind of puts itself to a point that it's too much. It's the natural balance, it's trying to release. This explains your crying at times. Crying is your tool, yes. Please post this chart in your IG so we can see it in total. Yes, actually, I have a lot of presentations on this, and I'll talk about that here in just a moment, because we're going to be we have actually a new venture, Root Cause Solutions, and I'm jumping ahead now, but I meant to talk about this later, where we are going to help with the consolidation portion of being able to take all these different platforms that you would normally have to go check and do individually and consolidate into one. And I'll talk more about the functionality. Is that by consolidating our energy, by condensing it, and if condensed energy is matter, then condensing our energy, being smarter with how we allocate it, and making sure that how we're going about those interchanges so that we don't unnecessarily have to drain the energy, is how we retain more of that, right? To be able to do the things that we want to do, right? And do them better. And so being smart with the way that we're able to consolidate this is something that we've now been able to do with Root Cause Solutions, which is going to be a platform that we launched it First, for the individuals who are going to be doing the course with Root Cause Clinic, the Physics Meets Physiology course, this allows them to graduate with our, certification and be able to have a one-stop shopping area that they can put their website, they can take bookings, have the calendar, have a blog. There's going to be the future for social media engagement, being able to post directly from this. You can do advertising, funnels, etc. You can automate every single thing. And so you set this up, and this just will run for you based on whatever type of action is coming in through the system. You don't have to sit and do the one-to-one for that. And what we're doing is we're launching this so that we have our students who are ready to go once that they've done, the course, and they're ready to start taking clients if that is what they're looking to venture into. But we realized that this actually was a good setup for many others. And so it will be available to individuals, even if you did not, complete the course. Although if you are completing the course, you do get a specific amount of time that you get this for free to try it out and see that you love it. But this is great for anybody from a yoga teacher to somebody who might have an actual, chiropractic practice. There's just so many ways and values. And I know I've even left out probably many things that platform does yet, because I still want to finish up on this tangent before I come back to that. But by consolidating the energy, that is how that we're able to create this balance where that we automate abundance. And that's really what it's about, is that it's an automation. And it doesn't mean you have to sacrifice the individual time, but if we're smarter with the areas that can be automated, then we can actually allow for the individualization time. So that is one of the things that we're going to be doing on this platform, is actually encouraging you to have this balance with the emotional template by understanding your natural rhythm, using the 5 elements. And we'll have different types of lectures where that I will speak about, what are the dynamics between, let's say, this metal element and this wood element. How does this play out in the workplace? We'll get real life examples for individuals who want to know about how we achieve balance, understanding each other's rhythms. We'll see, 5 different types of CEOs, different types of lead type of rhythms, and how stress looks on each of them. Maybe one individual has the digestive issues, the other one's getting the migraines, right? The other one has nodules or growths that they're having a problem with. And talk about how we can, for each of these types of rhythms, find balance, and more importantly, how again they can work with the others. So it's going to be a full service, a true holistic platform to help entrepreneurs, those ones that want to be able to not just, spend that energy in helping others, but be able to put that back and enjoy the relationships in their life and enjoy, the relationship with ourselves, which sometimes just gets so overdrawn, if you will, right, with the work that we're doing. So back to this, charts and presentations and all that will be up. I will have some of them up on stories after, and we'll also link to some of the other things that you can look at if you are interested. We are having a summit this week to look further into the root cause solution. So if you want to see exactly what it offers, we will have that. And there's an email that's going out today that will give you that information, as well as several other updates for Root Cause Clinic. I've talked about them on stories, but I will talk about them again at the end of this presentation. Let me just see what else that I missed. So glad you didn't miss this. And I will get into the next element here as soon as I can just make sure. It looks like we're good. Okay. I think I've caught up enough on the comments. Let's get into live time. And how do I find out what element you are? Oh, that's a good question. So actually, we have a quiz that you can take. I will link it here. And you can take this quiz, and then you can kind of see some brief intro into using elements in your life, right? For yourself, understanding your own rhythms in your relationships with others, because where is the point of emotional turmoil or tension coming in? It's coming in through our relationships, right? Whether it's through our family, our friends, or the workplace. You are the top 5 people you spend time with. And so it makes sense that we understand or take the time to understand our rhythms, the rhythms of others, so we can come to a harmonious kind of understanding, right? And execution. So we do have a quiz that you'll be able to take for that. So stay tuned for that link that we'll put up there. Then let's actually go into let's see what element we have next. Next is, this one looks like we are talking about water element. This is a element that has a lot of flow of ideas. They come up with all the copy, right? As in the genius, marketing lingo. They're the ones that are an ever streaming flow or fountain, right, of ideas. And so they can be artists, they can be the ones that are the creative types, and they're very much moved by meaning and purpose. So if we have individuals on our team that are water element driven, we're going to want to make sure that the work somehow we're able to correlate that to something that is important to this person or hit on those points, right? So that we can keep people motivated. They won't be exactly like a metal per se, who is just about the organization for organization's sake or for perfectionism's sake. These individuals will have really good intuition, and they tend to prefer to kind of work alone, as do metals. But metals want to work alone for different reasons than do waters. Waters get just a little bit worn down because water lacks a boundary, right? Water is defined by a boundary. How do you have water unless it's contained by something, right? And so these types tend to have engagements, with others and be very, very, very worn down by them. And a metal will just prefer not to be with individuals because they prefer to have their own work rhythm because it's more efficient. They want to have that OCD kind of control, but different than a way that a wood would want to control. A wood would want to control because they would want things to be their way or the highway. A metal would just be kind of irked by the fact that things that are excessive are cluttering in the efficiency or the organization. So you see how all this can come together? Let's look at the next element because I have yet more to show you that I think you'll find interesting. Okay, next we have wood. So woods are your justice fighters. These are the individuals that they will speak up when everybody else is being quiet and not wanting to cause a scene. They will have the ability to go and to be heard. These are the individuals that you want to be your advocates, or the ones that you want on the sales pitch to be able to not take no for an answer. At the same time, they have some very nurturing nature to them as well. They can struggle, however, with impatience or being flexible. And so we may look at this and, from an outside perspective, find this person as difficult, but really it's about understanding how that wood would want to be, addressed and or kind of to be able to have that respect. If you are late to a meeting, there is nobody that's going to be more upset than a wood, right? You would think it'd be the metal because they're stringent and they want that organization, but the wood is going to have a little bit more of a personalization or less impatient or more impatience for that, less patience for that. And so all these different types of dynamics that come together, again, we look at the same result, but we're achieving them differently, right? Or for different reasons or with different motivations. But woods are your steadfast, they're the drivers, the ones that follow up and make sure that stuff gets done. You want a job to get done, you want a wood. So they're great for making sure leading the team, project organizers. Let's look at our last element here. And that would lead us to metal. So metal is characterized by organization. They love information. And they love to be able to have beauty and aesthetics. But they like it because they like it to be in order. So we may look at the way that a fire may appreciate beauty, right, versus the way that a metal will appreciate beauty. And I can identify with that because I like harmony. I like to look at appropriate geometry and nice lines. It makes me feel good, right? That is a natural thing that I like and I gravitate toward. Metal personalities can be domineering though, because they can come off as aloof and or kind of condescending sometimes because of the way that they naturally gravitate toward these things. It can kind of, and the way that they like to be isolated or work alone can kind of be off-putting to many others, right? But if we learn how to give a metal element their space or understand that they work alone better, not because that they don't like other individuals, but they just work alone better, then this allows us to delegate our teams in the right situations, right? Some individuals want to have others in the workplace or they benefit with certain relationships. Others are going to benefit with those relationships when they can have enough alone time to be able to come to the table so that they can have the energy that they're going to spend at that relationship at that table, the ability to withstand some of those things that naturally might not be so compatible, right? Or the areas that we might have some difficulties in. So again, metals are great with organizing and doing things individually. They are the ones that can wake up and be self-motivated. They don't need somebody to check in on them, make sure that they're doing X, Y, Z. They love checklists, as do I. If I could, I'd plan every single thing throughout the day. I know that sounds terrible, but that's how I am. I love structure, right? That's what metals like. So that's kind of a clean intro into just the extreme basics of everything. Let's look at slates. So jobs that we might kind of associate or find some of these elements, dominant elements, meaning gravitating toward. Earths, they do great working on the land. They can be awesome civil engineers. They may be great working as masonaries, doing artistry with things like marble, helping to manage natural resources, working in things like archaeology. You name it, all of the things that have to do with the earth, right? There's certain individuals that's going to be somewhat more of a natural rhythm for them. It's not going to feel like it's as much work as, let's say, if you give that to somebody who is not leading with that natural rhythm. And I'm not going to continue to go through this because I can't even read it. Unfortunately, I screenshot it, but it's blocked out by the comments. So I will post some of this again after so that you can have the full ability to go through it. But for now, let's just get through the other elements. Metal element. So what's interesting is that at one point in my life, I really did want to go into being a crystallographer or to work in gem science. I found crystals and gems very fascinating. And I love them. And so interestingly enough, metal elements are sometimes some of the best in jewels and or metalworking, hardware, engineering, etc. And also, as you can read there, lawyer, litigation, so individuals who have to have a lot of information that they entertain, codes, law. Metals are very much law and order. Okay, now we're on to fire element. These can be your individuals who do great with electronics, the electrical appliances, videos, advertising, marketing. Again, that kind of central spotlight type of role. We see that they're great for being able to get into public speaking, hence order. And we also see other professions here, such as military, where we need some, courageous type of action as well, because fires will definitely bring it when it comes to that. Let's look at water element. Water element tend to be your artist, but also get this. One of these, and I don't know if you can actually read it, but I chose this specifically because it actually listed aquaculture. So I originally in agriculture worked in aquaculture. I worked in the aquaculture portion of agriculture. So with fishing and, mostly with bivalve farming, which is the cultivation off the coast of things like mussels and oysters and clams, and the science that goes into that, using lasers and not using chemicals in the ocean, back whenever you could still just throw whatever you wanted in there. I found that very interesting because I do love organization and science and learning, and that is my metal element, right? Which a scientist is one of the professionals that through a means in which, water was there, right? Aquaculture. And so you really, if you look at your life and you understand the elements in full context, you'll see how so many things are explained, from down to the foods that you like, the areas and cities that you jive with, your natural rhythm. Are you a person that you just got to kind of start slow in the morning? Don't talk to me until I've been able to check my email at my leisure and have my coffee and get going? Or are you the person that, boom, you can hit the shower, have the ice cold water coming on you, and you love to start your day that way? Understanding the elements and understanding the way that works for you can help you better strategize your day, better optimize and support yourself for success, and understand how to be a little bit more give and take with others, right? Not take things so personal if you get that that's just that person's rhythm. Doesn't mean people get a get out of jail free card for accountability, but we may hold them accountable differently or motivate them differently to be accountable, okay? Now let's go to the last one here, and that is wood. So wood can work in things such as being a florist, right? And these are very limiting, everybody. So it doesn't mean like this is it, like, oh my gosh, I'm in the wrong profession if I don't, have whatever my dominant element is that I'm seeing here. There may be another reason why that you are in the profession you are. It could be, yes, the wrong profession for you, and that could be why you might have the health problems or emotional imbalances, etc., that you do. But there's also other reasons, maybe subdominant elements, that could be why that you have chosen to work in a certain field or gravitated to work in a certain field. And maybe it might even just be because it is easy for you. Not maybe what's the most fulfilling or meaningful, but easy because your natural rhythm allows you to serve that area more readily than others. These are great teachers. They are good at working, with any type of medicine. And we see in the health sphere, they tend to be your herbalist a lot of times, but can also go into the pharmacist route. So we can look at the way that could evolve across a continuum. So that's kind of, again, very basic intro. I think we went through all of them. Let me just see. Yes, indeed. Okay, so let's go back from screen sharing and see what everybody wrote. Okay. How much have I missed here? What are all the extra jobs for those with chronic conditions at home preferred? Where are all the extra jobs for those with chronic conditions at home preferred? Are you asking where to literally find the jobs, or are you asking what type of jobs based on elements for somebody? Because then that would vary by the elements. I'm self-employed, and so definitely a water. Yes, waters like to be able to do their own thing. You think you're earth, but you will take the quiz. Stay tuned to take the quiz, everybody. And don't overthink the quiz either when you take it. So make sure you're going off of what truly is kind of that first instinct. Don't sit there and think about it too much. So interesting. Love learning the elements. Feel like I'm leaning into earth and a little bit of water. I encourage you all to go down the rabbit hole and really look at the elements and kind of see from, a workspace standpoint, a, relationship standpoint, personality standpoint. You can even, like I showed on stories the other day, look and see what kind of fashion choices that you gravitate toward and understand that through the elements as well. You can guess. Joined a little late. How do you know what you are? We have a test for that. You can also muscle test. So if you have a practitioner who can muscle test you, you can muscle test which elements that you are. There's quite a few different ways that you could come about making this conclusion, but generally taking the test, which has our test is pages and pages long that we'll go through, and you'll add up all of your scores for all the elements, and you'll be able to have an actual hierarchy of your distribution as far as what percent you are of each element. So you can kind of understand, and also to the questions that are asked will help you see how that each of these elements comes to be. So like I said, my earth element that I have, it's not necessarily coming out in the barefoot and pregnant pattern. It's definitely not coming out in the construction pattern, but it comes out in the food, right? And in the home and in the kitchen. That's my domestic, earth quality there. Let's see. This is why I can never give stuff away, Victoria. Okay, so I have caught up now to live time. Nurses can be all types of elements. So different nurses, different element dominant nurses will have different ways of, supporting the hospital. And they're all going to be useful because you might need that one wood nurse that's going to go and, say, no, this is not right for the patient care. In fact, I can give you a story about that. The nurse practitioner who does the Fraxel that I got done a few months back, she also works in a hospital, and the doctor was a young doctor just out of medical school, and he was refusing to do a D-dimer on an elderly gentleman, saying he just had anxiety. And the nurse, she's 25 years in the field, she just knew something was not right. And she demanded, even going above that doctor's, reach, if you will, to make sure that this man got the D-dimer because she saw that he was not right. I mean, they wanted to just discharge this man and tell him he basically shouldn't have come to the emergency room. And he was actually about to have an embolism. So she saved his life. And if it was maybe, let's say, somebody who's a little bit more passive in their element, they might have just said, all right, well, okay, And she didn't. So she saved his life. So you can see how a wood dominant nurse is going to be great for certain situations. And you also might need that, organized metal element nurse who's going to go in and make sure that they're going to find a way that somebody can cover somebody else so somebody else can take this time, eat. And we have all the organization components, or the ones that put together maybe the organization that the earth wants to throw a birthday party for somebody, but it's maybe the metal who's going to help the earth actually execute all of that. The earth, that loving, tender compassion that we have for humanity, right? That is also a wonderful quality to help feed the soul of the patients, right? And at the same time, we can look at the creativity. We need some ability to outthink the box that there is in the mold before us, and maybe that water element nurse is going to be able to do that, right? And the fire nurse. We need a performer nurse. Those are the nurses that we see doing all the TikToks, right? But they're bringing some joy to their patients' day. So there's a spot for everybody, right? It's just about understanding where we fit so that we can know how to best strategize a team, how to understand the dynamics of our families, our friendships, and more. Thank goodness for nurses like her. Is virtual muscle testing accurate? So that's a good question. It depends on the skill of the practitioner. So if you ever have any kind of guesswork that you'd rather not leave, in the hands of somebody, I mean, literally, neutral testing instrument, which is basically what we use at Root Cause Clinic, where we're using a device. And so While we're using technology to go through and to make assessments, this is neutral. It does not have any type of, practitioner bias. A practitioner, however, can absolutely do remote testing for people, a remote muscle testing, if they have the skill and ability to do so. But not everybody is going to obviously have that ability as good as others, right? Let's see some other questions. Nurses, can't wait to take the quiz. This was so fascinating. Okay. All right. So just bringing this full circle, everybody. And we are actually going to give away a test kit today as well. Bringing this full circle. In understanding our elements, we'll be able to apply it to everything. It's about understanding your natural rhythm. When you do that, you can begin to understand others. You can understand them in your home. You can understand them in your friendships. You can understand them in your workplace. That is a central theme that we're going to be writing on in the root cause solutions, where that we're going to help give some tidbits of information to help strategize your teams, strategize, and really condense your energy efforts in a way that's most productive to start with, right? When we understand the way that the natural rhythms work, we're going to not waste as much time fighting against them. And that right there is everything. That is time that we don't have to spend making up, right? Or repairing things that perhaps never had to be as broken as we imagined in the first place. Root cause solutions, for those of you who are actually going to take you to register, it's this Friday and Saturday. And so we'll be showing you the behind the scenes as far as everything that this platform contains and what you can do with it. All the different types of services that you can replace with it, and how you can log into one backend and actually see everything that you need. So I don't know about you, but going through, Voxer, going through several inboxes, going through text messages, going through DMs, and going through that on multiple accounts. Let's just say you have even more than one business. You can imagine how much time in the day do you just spend logging into different, platforms? And how much time is that separating or pulling you apart? Consolidating and condensing that really is going to be how that we can get exponentially much more amount of time. Working smarter to automate, right? While not losing the individuality. That is something that we have worked really hard to try to come to this moment to do, because it has not been the first rodeo to do so. We had to learn through trial and error. But we're putting all of that into a platform that finally answers everything that we wanted out of a platform. And we just realized that this would actually be great as a template to put out there for others. And that's what we're doing. So if you are a course graduate, also to influencers who might be interested, go to the link in bio and hit us up, because there are some promotions where that you can actually try this out potentially for free as well. And anybody that might actually be interested, go register, at least hear what it's all about. You'll get to see some of the monthly content and even case studies, really. We'll put people out there, and we'll have some individuals that we'll see and what that looks like, them leading a company, certain types of element distributions versus others. How does that person wear their stress versus this person, right? What might we be able to do in the business place according to the 5-element strategy? Not just what protocol can they take and supplements, but what can they do in the workplace to better harmonize whether it's a workplace that they're working for somebody else, or a workplace that they are the one driving, right, the work. Either way, to understand that, because we are the top 5 people that we spend our time with. And so that is an information to your field. Balancing that field is some of the most profound work that you can do. And you don't even have to take, a supplement for it. It's just organizing and understanding these rhythms that can actually move the needle. All right, everyone. Well, any questions so far? I probably left out some stuff because I went on some tangents. Deanna, if you're in the chat, remind you lives, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I was supposed to say this and I didn't. Always love when you share this info. Who liked the elements talk today? Love how you explain these complex topics. Okay, so then let's give away our test kit, everybody. So give me just one moment. And I actually have to make some announcements as far as some changes in RCC, because you'll get an email here about that in just a moment. All right, so today's winner is, one moment here. And you have to be present in order to claim your prize. If not, we will pick another individual. So just saying. All right, so the winner is Mimi Lambros. Mimi Lambros, if you are still on watching this live, you have won a test kit, a $395 value. Let's see if you are still here. It's scrolling into lifetime. Hey, Julie, you're excited for the quiz. It was great. You guys all liked the elements. Well, there's a lot more that we can deep dive into. Again, from, how you set up your office, how you set up your bedroom, how do you set up or structure your day? When do you take on certain tasks throughout the day? How should you be eating, right? And what are the people on your team? Like, what kind of an assistant would a metal element need versus somebody who is an earth element, right? Might look very different. All right, Mimi, are you on to claim your prize? Congrats to the winner. The test is so informative. All right, Mimi, let's see if you're here. If not, we will pick another individual. With that said, the only way to now do a single test kit experience is going to be by winning a test kit. So at Root Cause Clinic, we've realized that, many individuals that they're doing the 8-week packages, they come back because after that second month rolls around, once that they've worked out the first kinks of getting started, that second month is where we really start seeing kind of the needle move. Individuals that are coming just for the one-time experience, not saying that they're coming and thinking in 1 month that it's all going to be, behind them, but it kind of takes getting through that first month into the second month and the support of the provider to get you there, that we really see that those are the individuals that, they're making the progress, and the individuals that they're doing just the 1 month, they're not. So since we're here for results, we're going to be revamping RCC, and we're only going to have the 8-week packages available. So the only way to work with RCC is under the guidance of a practitioner, having the results explained to you. Doing the self-navigation is not going to be an option anymore. Individuals who win a test kit on IG Live, however, can elect to just pay for a consult. That, as well as those of you who are in our doTERRA LRP, if you're getting a test kit for the LRP, which we give away a test kit for every 6 months that you're on the LRP, or sometimes there's actually just promotions that we run. For example, this month in honor of our 3rd year anniversary for RCC, just for a 200 PV order, you can get a test kit this month, not even counting that you get one at the 6-month mark. So we have a lot of different incentives and things that we have out there. There is also the option for a 8-week package. If you are in our team and you do have 5 signups this month, that will entitle you to a gratis 8-week package. That'll be 5 signups at 200 PV each. So those are just some changes that we have. If you are, looking to work with RCC, we do have a special promotion that's going to be celebrating our 3rd year anniversary. It will be for a 30% off code that will allow you to get 30% off the 8-week packages. There's until the end of the month to get the single test kit experience and or the single one-time experience. So if that is still something that you want to swoop up, now is going to be the last time to do that before it goes away indefinitely. And from here on out, it will only be the 8-week packages with RCC. Soon, however, we will have some graduates from the Physics Meets Physiology course, and they will have a ability to use our laboratory to be able to do testing with their clients. And so whatever dynamics that individuals working with our lab want to do in their own private practices, that will be decided by them. But as far as RCC, if you're looking to get tested directly with us, you will have to work with one of our practitioners. Let's see if there's any other questions. Really want to switch to your doTERRA team. Your team is the best. Ah, shucks. Thank you. Crazy how it's already been 3 years. I know, Brianna, you've been one of my OGs from the very start, since the Health Doll era. Everything you talk about is fascinating. Well, thank you. It's so nice to maybe see why we are the way we are. That's how I feel. I look at everything and I'm just like the simple things, like I shared yesterday with my couch, right? It's a gray, like a pewter gray and blue couch. That is so metal water, right? You can't get more metal water than that. Now, again, if I were to decorate entirely in the way that I'd want to, I had very vintage old Hollywood glass. And so this was some heavy furniture too, by the way, but that was my style. I don't mind a white wall or a gray wall aesthetic, right? But my other half is more into the woods and the darker, kind of antique look there. So we don't necessarily, have the same type of style, but because we understand each other and each other's rhythms, we can kind of coalesce those together so that there is at least a little bit of familiarity for both of our rhythms to come together, right? And it also is balancing in some ways. I might not necessarily want to surround myself, right, with wood, but sometimes putting yourself in these elements that you wouldn't naturally gravitate to might allow you to get work done that normally in your ideal setting you don't get done, right? Okay, everyone. Well, I think we've hit everything that we were going to talk about today. Any last questions? If not, oh, did Mimi actually claim her prize? If not, then I actually have to pick another winner. Okay, I think I have to actually pick one. I don't see you, Mimi. All right, let's pick the winner then, and then we will call it a day. And we'll have another IG Live next week, everybody. Oh, and one last thing, actually. One last thing. I will be doing case studies, and I did screenshot all of you who requested to be the subjects of the case studies that I will feature on IG Live. So I'll be screenshotting the client reports, and we have a new beautiful client report that is much easier to digest and is in order of importance. So I will be sharing these like I did today, and we'll be going through in lifetime and actually breaking down a case. So we could be breaking down a case from everything from what do the Chinese element markers mean, to the emotional templates, to the time frame that the emotional events happen, to the individuals involved, to how this connects to the person's physiological health. And we're going to share these cases with all of you so you can see how that this actually translates to finding answers, right? How we reverse engineer and find a solution. So I have all the screenshots from all of you who entered, and I will pick some of you and get in touch with you. And if you do not have results with Root Cause Clinic that are recent, we will get you some. So hence you will actually be getting a free testing experience in exchange for coming on and allowing everybody to learn from your case. So I just wanted to put that out there as well, that we're going to be doing some case studies live on IG Live with everybody that you can look forward to. All right, now finally let's pick the last winner. Okay, so the next winner selection is XO Julia Styles. Are you on tonight's IG Live? And if so, you have won a test kit. So if you're here, we shall get you tested. Let's see if she's here. Martine has asked, when did you say was the last day for the single test kit? No more single test kits going forward unless you win them, such as on IG Live, or in these case studies where that we are going to start doing those. You will get obviously a free scan experience with Root Cause Clinic and a free appointment because I'm going to be going through all of your data live. And if you actually are on the doTERRA LRP, then you can also get a free test kit every 6 months or more often, as depending when we run the promotions that we do. All right, so Julia is here. Perfect. All right, Julia, well, you have won a free test kit, so just DM us so we can get your information and get that set up for you. If you haven't tested with RCC before, then we'll set you up with the portal and all that good stuff. All right, everybody. Otherwise, I hope you've enjoyed this evening, and stay tuned for some of the stuff I'm going to share on stories regarding Friday and Saturday, as well as the link in bio where you can register to come see what Root Cause Solutions is all about. How to automate abundance for everybody, whether we're doing it at a personal level or professional level. Right, everyone. Good night.